There aren't many gardening techniques that genuinely shift how you see soil forever, but every once in a while, something comes along that doesn't just improve your garden, it transforms it from the roots up. If you've been searching for a way to grow stronger, healthier, more productive plants without spending a fortune or depending on synthetic fertilizers, you're about to discover why gardeners around the world are quietly turning to one powerful ancient method. This secret comes from Korean natural farming, and it's centered around something called Indigenous Microorganisms, or IMO. It sounds scientific, but the idea is beautifully simple. You gather the living microbial life from your local environment and use it to supercharge your soil. These microbes are stronger, smarter, more adaptable, and more effective than anything you can buy in a bottle. This is the technique fertilizer companies definitely don't want spreading, because once your soil becomes self-sustaining, they lose a customer. And the best part, you can do it right now, in your own backyard. Welcome to SoilPower, friends. Let's dig into the method that has my entire gardening community buzzing. If you've ever stood in an aisle staring at shelves of fertilizers, 10-10-10, organic blends, bloom boosters, slow-release pellets, you've probably wondered if you're even choosing the right one. And even when you do, it often feels like your plants depend on these products, like caffeine addicts needing their next fix. Here's why. Synthetic fertilizers feed plants directly but starve the soil. They bypass the natural nutrient cycle and weaken the microbial life that would otherwise keep your soil fertile on its own. You might get fast growth, but it's shallow, temporary, and usually comes with long-term consequences like nutrient lockout, disease pressure, and dead compacted soil. IMO flips the entire system back to the way nature intended. Instead of pouring nutrients into the soil, you introduce living organisms that unlock nutrients already there. These microbes break down organic matter, release minerals from clay, fix nitrogen from the air, solubilize phosphorus, and create the perfect soil structure for roots to thrive. Over time, you'll notice the soil turning soft, dark, and crumbly, exactly what healthy soil looks like. This isn't feeding plants, this is building an ecosystem, and your plants simply tap into it. The heart of the method is Indigenous Microorganisms, or IMO. What makes IMO special isn't just the microbes themselves, it's the fact that they are indigenous. These organisms evolved in your exact climate, rainfall pattern, temperature range, and soil type. They aren't foreign commercial strains grown in a sterile lab. They're wild, resilient, and adapted to thrive where you garden. When you introduce these native microorganisms into your beds, something remarkable happens. Your soil begins functioning like a forest floor, alive, self-renewing, and constantly cycling nutrients. Plants grow stronger, resist disease, and require far fewer inputs than ever before. If you've struggled with compacted clay, nutrient deficiencies, fungal diseases, or stunted growth, IMO is one of the most effective natural solutions you'll ever try. Now, how do you collect IMO? And why is it surprisingly simple? This is where people expect things to get complicated, but collecting IMO is one of the most enjoyable and hands-on gardening activities you'll ever experience. It's basically nature's version of sourdough starter. All you need is cooked white rice, a breathable container, something to cover the top, brown sugar or molasses, and access to a forest or natural area. If you don't have a forest nearby, a mature tree line, undisturbed hedge border, or a long-established area of your property will still work beautifully. Here's the heart of the process in a simple, practical flow. You cook rice, lightly pack it into your container, cover it with breathable cloth or paper, and tuck it into a forested area. You leave it there for 5 to 7 days and return to find the rice covered in fungi and whites, yellows, or oranges. That fuzzy growth, that's your microbial gold mine. Once harvested, you mix it with an equal weight of brown sugar. This stabilizes the microbes, pulls moisture out, and preserves them for months. Think of it like creating a living concentrate you can activate anytime. That mixture, often called IMO2, is what you'll use to multiply and feed your garden. It's simple, it's inexpensive, and once you see the transformation it brings to your soil, you'll understand why Korean farmers have relied on it for generations. Once you've made your IMO solution, it's applied by dilution, usually 1 teaspoon per gallon of water. I recommend beginning with a light soil drench during your garden's active growing season, followed by an occasional foliar spray if you want to boost plant vitality even further. Here's what happens after application, though you won't always see it with the naked eye. The microorganisms begin exploring their new environment, attaching to soil particles, forming networks, breaking down organic matter, and unlocking nutrients. If your soil was once lifeless and compacted, you'll soon feel it becoming softer. If you struggled with diseases like blossom end rot, powdery mildew, or damping off, you'll notice your plants becoming noticeably more resistant. When plants have access to a rich microbial ecosystem, their natural immune systems strengthen. You're building real resilience, not a temporary boost. Over time, as you keep applying IMO to your soil, these communities multiply and stabilize. They partner with earthworms, mycorrhizal fungi, and beneficial bacteria, creating a thriving soil food web. The more consistent you are, the faster your soil becomes alive. The results, why gardeners, including me, just refuse to go back. When I first began using IMO in my own garden, honestly, I wasn't expecting dramatic results. I assumed it would help a bit, sure, but I was completely blown away. My tomato bed, which had struggled for years with uneven growth and disease, suddenly became the most productive corner of my garden. Pepper plants that normally yellow halfway through the summer, well, they stayed green and full right up until frost. And cucumbers that always developed powdery mildew, they held strong, producing heavily and staying healthier than I'd ever seen. The real surprise, though, was my soil. I went from hard clay that baked into bricks to soil that just breaks apart effortlessly in my hands. Earthworms returned, fungal networks became visible under mulch, and moisture retention improved dramatically. And then, there was the financial impact. I just stopped buying fertilizer. I didn't need it. My soil took care of itself. Friends of the SoilPower community started reporting similar changes. Gardeners with roses saw improved bloom cycles. Those with raised beds, they stopped fighting nutrient imbalances every season. Several people told me they hadn't purchased fertilizer since switching to IMO, and their gardens were healthier than ever. This wasn't a trend. This was a return to what real soil health looks like. One of the things I love most about this Korean method is its accessibility. A total beginner with nothing but a small garden bed and a batch of cooked rice can use it, but it also scales beautifully for advanced gardeners who want to refine their soil health, build long-term fertility, or cultivate specialized microbial blends from different environments. If you're just starting out, you can make a single batch of IMO2 and test it on a couple of plants or one garden area. You'll get results, and you'll learn as you go. If you're more experienced, you can create multiple IMO collections from different microclimates, forests, orchards, meadows, each offering unique benefits. You can tailor microbial blends to specific crops, growing systems, and soil needs. There's always another layer of complexity to explore, which makes it an evergreen method for lifelong gardeners. No matter your skill level, you end up with something powerful, natural, and sustainable. The future of gardening is microbial. More and more, gardeners are waking up to a fact indigenous cultures have understood for thousands of years. Soil isn't just a medium for holding plants, it's actually a living system. And when we treat it like one, the health of our gardens transforms. Korean natural farming and IMO, or Indigenous Microorganisms, bring us back to that wisdom. They give us the tools we need to rebuild soil health, instead of, just repeatedly trying to fix symptoms with synthetic inputs. If fertilizer companies seem nervous, it's because they know what this technique can do. When gardeners learn the power of microbes, they stop depending on the cycle of external fertilizers. They become self-sufficient. They become empowered. In a world where gardening often feels expensive, complicated, and honestly dependent on store-bought products, IMO reminds us of the truth. Everything you need is already in the soil. You just have to bring it back to life. Try it today. Your garden will thank you. If you've been searching for a way to transform your soil naturally, sustainably, and affordably, this Korean technique is absolutely worth trying. Start with a single batch. Apply it to one bed, one potted plant, or even just one corner of your garden. Watch what happens over the next few weeks. You might just witness the turning point in your gardening journey. And if you found this article helpful, inspiring, or eye-opening, don't forget to subscribe to SoilPower for more deep-dive gardening methods that actually work. Share this with a friend who loves to grow, because once their garden starts thriving, they'll be thanking you later. Together we can rebuild living soil, one backyard at a time.